Welcome back everybody to another tutorial video, and today we're going to be looking at the battle UI. There are two types of battles in the game. There are the historic battles, which we're looking at right now, and there are also campaign battles. Let's take a look first at the historic battles. When starting a historic battle, in this case we've chosen the Battle of Shiloh, we first start by choosing which side we're going to play as, and once we've chosen a side, in this case I'm choosing the Union, we have to choose whether or not to give the AI a bonus and whether or not we want to have historical or dynamic AI. If we choose the historic AI, the AI is going to follow a particular script, but once engaged in the battle, that'll start to change and it'll act dynamically. In the dynamic AI, the AI does not follow a script. He'll move, combine forces, choose tactics completely independent of what may have happened in the historic battle. The bonus, when choosing a bonus, adds to the side's military experience. It makes the commanders more competent, and it adds to the unit experience, making the units fight harder. When you start a battle, you're in the headquarters view, which you see here. You can close the headquarters view by clicking on this blinking HQ next to the compass. In the headquarters view, you can view a variety of documents. Each of the documents you can see here, there are reports, there's the briefing, which we're currently looking at, and then there's a list of objectives that have been given to us. In this case, Shiloh Church, the Widow Howell, and Purdy Road. In the reports view, you can see there are a number of different reports that are available. And within each one of these reports, you can move down and up through the order of battle on either side. The Union, we can see Army of Tennessee, Army of the Ohio. If we click on each one of those, we go down even further, all the way down to the brigade level where we can get information. If you want to go back up in the order of battle, you just click up here and it'll take you right back through to the top. If you have reinforcements that are going to be arriving later, so for example the Army of the Ohio for the Union, you can go into the condition report here and you can see the Army of the Ohio will begin to arrive in 9 hours. So that's a good handy way to find out what reinforcements you may have on the way. You can do the same for the Confederate side in this case, if the Confederates had their own reinforcements, which they do not. To zoom in and out on the map, you can use the mouse wheel or the hotkeys that are described in the options menu. When you're zooming in, the map changes to a terrain view and vice versa, depending on how far you zoom in or out on the screen. To move the camera forward and backwards, you can again use the hotkeys, or you can just go to the edge of the screen, and that'll allow you to not only move up and down, but then you can move from side to side and rotate by going to the left or the right of the map. The left mouse button is used to select units or to manipulate the UI during battles. The right mouse button is what you use to issue orders or to close open dispatches. Many of the elements that you see on the screen can be hidden by clicking on the double arrows like this, and can be opened again doing the same thing. Here at the top, you can see some very important information about the battle, such as the weather. And if you highlight the weather, it'll actually tell you how that particular weather affects the operations of your army. And the weather, of course, can change during a battle. Here, we have the status bar showing us the status of the battle, who's winning, and what elements go into determining who may be winning the battle. You can see there such things as capturing objectives, the overall morale of your army, any units that have been routed, and what losses you've taken. Depending on these values, the armies may become more fragile or may become stiffer in their resistance, which means a smaller veteran army led by an aggressive commander can discourage a larger, less experienced army that may have a cautious commander and may cause them to withdraw, even if they outnumber their opponent. Up here in the top right, you have the compass, which shows you the map directions as they relate to the direction that you're facing. We also have a number of settings, the main menu, which you can click on here, and that allows you to go into the options. And you can change most things in the options, but not, of course, the game options, which are predetermined before you start. Beyond that, then, we have a number of visualizations for the map. The first one here is Fog of War visualization, which allows you to see what areas of the map are covered by Fog of War outside of your unit's vision. The command info shows you command radius for your various commanding officers, and the area inside here where you see the bugles shows the distance at which you can issue a bugle call, which will be followed much quicker than having to send a courier and have an increased delay. Routes allows you to show or hide the routes for all units, not just the selected ones. Icons allows you to show or hide the quick information icons on top of each of the units. The ranges allows you to show or hide range information for selected units, and there's a couple of things about that. One is that this is the maximum range for this unit's weapons. The dotted line here, the dashed line, actually shows you what their current orders are. So if they're being ordered to wait until they're in medium range, they won't fire at their max range. It'll only fire when an enemy unit comes inside of that range. And of course that can be changed based on the orders that you issue. With artillery, you can see this cone, which is their range of fire. And when this cone is a regular orange, that means the artillery is ready to fire. When it's a darker orange, that means that artillery unit is currently reloading. The last thing on the top right is the headquarters view, which when you click on the headquarters view will automatically reorient the map to north being up and show you the entire battlefield. On the bottom right, during the deployment phase or in between days, you will see these buttons that show supplies and engineering points. Engineering points are actually used to construct breastworks and trenches. Also on the bottom right is the time panel. It shows what time it is. Right now it's 5 a.m. and that's shown in black. You can also hit play to go to regular speed or go to 2x, 5x, and 10x on the time to accelerate how quickly the game progresses. If you issue a retreat order to your army, that will change to a red timer, which ticks down based on the amount of time it takes to distribute the retreat orders and to complete that. When the timer reaches 0, the battle will end. On the left side is the order of battle screen, and when you click on that, it'll bring up the order of battle for your forces. Now you can see that in this case, only certain units are showing as dark blue. The rest are ghosted. And what that means is that these are the units that are actually on the map, and the others have not yet arrived. They'll arrive later on in the battle. Looking here on the order of battle, you can also see when these units will arrive. By highlighting the tooltips, you can see the 3rd Division arrives in 4 hours. Hancock's 2nd Division under Gibbon arrives in 11 hours. Now I can click on one of these existing units and find them on the battlefield. Double click on Wadsworth, it takes me right to his division. On the right side, you can see the army orders under the star. One of them is to retreat, and when you choose retreat, there will be a delay depending on how many units are on the field, depending on the situation on the battlefield. But understand that any units that are still in contact with the enemy are going to suffer additional casualties and maybe some surrenders as well as a result of issuing that order. You can also issue an order to surrender, which will end the battle and cause the entire army to surrender on the field. On the bottom left, you see more information about any selected unit or headquarters. In the case of units, you can see all of the detail that's available about things such as their numbers, their losses, whether they have guns if they're artillery, the experience of the officer in command, the type of weapons they're using, how much ammunition they have, and other various information. Here you can see information about the perks. Once a unit receives a certain amount of experience on the battlefield or from training, you can choose a perk. And the way you level that perk up then is by completing that particular task. This here, the Iron Brigade, it has level 3 Iron Discipline, so they've leveled up that perk a couple more times. Once you level up a perk to level 3, you get to choose a battle flag, which indicates that they are an elite unit on the battlefield, and you can see elite units by the fact that they have a second flag instead of just the standard one. The way you level up perks, as I mentioned, is by completing that particular task. So for example, if you have a unit that you've chosen the sharpshooting perk, they will improve that perk by firing at longer ranges. On the top left, you'll see the dispatch logbook, and that is where you receive dispatches about important information that's happening on the battlefield. You can left-click on the log to see all of the dispatches you've received. Left-click again to click on any one of those. If they're highlighted, that means you haven't read it yet. All of these have already been read. When I click on one, it'll bring up the appropriate information, and then I can right-click to close that dispatch again. When you receive dispatches, you can actually double-click on those dispatches, and it will take you to the unit that sent that dispatch. In this case, we received one that told us that General Howard has arrived with the 11th Corps, and so double-clicking on that dispatch immediately takes me to those 11th Corps units on the field, so I can see where they've arrived. Well, that's it for the Battle UI tutorial. Good luck out there, General.